Hello everyone, my name is Jacob Bonilla, and this is my presentation on roads versus nature, the balancing of progress and preservation. Now you see, we live in a world where infrastructure surrounds us, such as our highways, satellites, and even power grids. But even then, while we are creating these things, we're not understanding the potential environmental impacts that can come forth because of our creations, such as increased heat waves, greenhouse gas emissions, and the wasting of natural resources and products. And because of this, we then need to understand that as we continue to grow our infrastructure, that it can have sociological, environmental, and also climate and technological issues and impacts, to which then we need to understand a way that we can balance and mitigate these issues and problems, while also understanding that our connection between how we build and our environment responds is very crucial and important to understand. So within this presentation, I will be exploring how society then can continue to grow while also protecting our environment and the communities that depend on it. Now you see, when I began this project, I found that infrastructure will continue and has always played a crucial role within supporting our economic growth and connecting our communities. As seen from the very beginning of the first industrial revolution to modern day transportation systems, it allows for the efficient moving of goods, services, and people, while also allowing and fostering their development, as seen with the creation and use of coal and steam, up to now of the use of lithium batteries and also nuclear energy. But you see, as we continue to grow this infrastructure, it then also continues to expand on a global scale. And because of this, we need to understand that its impacts are becoming extremely significant, and not just shaping our economies and also enhancing our lives, but then also causing environmental impacts and damage such as Chernobyl and many different issues that must be understood and comprehended, as seen also with the creation of transportation systems, such as Ben Goldfarb's How Roads Have Transformed the Natural World, which within this source, Goldfarb found that roads are continuing to fragment our ecosystems, disrupt wildlife migration, and also reshape our natural landscapes. And because of this, we need to then understand that as we continue to knit our worlds together and knit our communities together, we also need to understand that as we do this connection, it can then reshape our planet and also create environmental impacts and destruction that can be irreversible at sometimes. So then, with this, we need to find a way that we can then balance and also strengthen our societies while also mitigating our risks. And then this leads me to my research question then. How then should societies balance infrastructure development with its environmental and social consequences? And this question matters because infrastructure is essential, but in the way that we build it then can determine whether it becomes a tool for our progress or a source of long-term harm. And because of this, we need to also understand that these systems do make our transportation and communication and economic activities possible, but then we are also giving up resources that cannot be replaced in certain aspects. So that leads me to my argument. You see, I found that while infrastructure is crucial for our environmental growth and technological advancement, it can also bring environmental damage and social inequality. And with this, to move forward sustainably, societies must then adopt strategies that can reduce these negative effects while also still supporting our development and balancing our growth. Because we cannot stop our building, but rather we could then make it a smarter and more sustainable in order to protect and preserve our resources while also preserving our environment. And you see, this leads me to my environmental lens, where I found that one of the biggest concerns within our environmental development is the fragmentation of habitats. You see, as we continue to grow systems such as roads, this can lead to environmental disruptions in our ecosystems, the disrupting of migration paths, and also the reducing of biodiversity. And this is connected to research done by the World Wildlife Fund, where they have identified that habitat fragmentation is one of the most major threats to our biodiversity. And this is a global issue that has been seen, and it is also not just theoretical. You see, within the last decade, there have been a decreasing and decline of certain species at alarming rates, especially within the U.S., where they have found that animals such as the pronghorn, elk, and mountain lions are becoming more commonly found within roadkill incidents, showing that the crossing of highways is becoming more dangerous for animals. And this is also connected to even insects species that are being limited, such as bee colonies, which then can also create environmental issues, such as within our food systems, which then is connected to the fragmenting of landscapes. And this is connected to a statement made by Sir David Attenborough, where he found that if we do not act now, the environmental loss will be irreversible. And this is becoming more relevant and pressing within our modern day societies as climate-driven disasters are intensifying. You see, when ecosystems are weakened by the fragmentation of our infrastructure, it then can lead to them becoming less resilient to issues such as heat waves, droughts, and storms. And these issues and events are becoming increasingly more common and often within our societies. And through this then leads me into my next lens, which is the climate impact. You see, our transportation infrastructure is one of the most largest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. With cars, trucks, and planes burning fossil fuels, and the expanding of roads leading to the required clearing of forests that would otherwise absorb this carbon footprint. And this is connected to a study done by the EPA, where they have identified that transportation is one of our major drivers of U.S. emissions. And this has already been seen within our societies, as we're starting to have record-breaking heat waves across the U.S., severe flooding in regions that rarely would flood before, wildfires now burning longer and hotter, droughts affecting agriculture and water supplies, as seen with droughts such as in Corpus Christi. And also, this then shows us that our infrastructure can help us move, but then it can also accelerate our climate change. And it's also connected to a satellite image that was taken over Los Angeles. You see, during 2019, the original image shows that the majority of the highway is covered with smog. But then during 2020, when most people were stuck during the lockdowns, it showed that the image of the same interstate that goes through through Los Angeles was clear. It was perfectly visible, and then this shows that our transportation systems can create a major carbon emission output and also create issues that can be irreversible to the climate and environment and also the atmosphere that surrounds us. And because of this, and as seen within this image that is provided below, that as our droughts continue to grow, it can then completely fragment not just our ecosystems, but then also destroy and create arid landscapes that can potentially not be irreversible. But you see, as with also the climate aspect and environmental, there's also economic benefits and trade-offs. You see, our infrastructure does bring economic benefits. It can increase trade, create jobs, improve access to education and healthcare, and also support technological innovation. And developing nations also especially rely on this infrastructure to grow their economies, but then there are the trade-offs. You see, we can then have short-term economic gains, which can create long-term environmental costs, such as the use of certain resources in order to save money momentarily, but then create issues in the long run, along with also damaged ecosystems in order to limit sustainability and also limit our future resources in the search for cheaper ways to create and also function our infrastructure, which then leads to this major tension. Then how can we grow without destroying systems that support our lives? But then there is also the social impacts. You see, our infrastructure continues to affect people socially, and on one hand it can create and connect communities while also improving our access to essential services and allowing for people to also have connections and the ability to reach certain jobs and areas where they would not be able to reach it, such as in rural areas connecting to the cities. But then on the other hand, it then can displace communities, especially as seen in low income and rural populations. And because of this, it then can worsen inequalities in certain regions that may receive more investing than others. And this is connected to an idea that was seen by the Brookings Institution, where they have found that our infrastructure projects often unintentionally reinforce social inequalities. And this is seen in many modern debates nowadays, where it is argued over which neighborhoods should get public transportation, which communities should get flood protection, who should get clean water infrastructure, and who should get left behind. And because of this, our infrastructure is seen that it can connect us, but then it can also divide us. And this can be seen within an example that I have, to where if a highway is placed within a rural city, the people that are located on the highway, or the businesses, will flourish more than the ones that are located on the outskirts. And because of this creation of infrastructure or road transportation system, big city investors or different major LLCs can then come in and take over local businesses, which then can create social inequality and the creation of social classes due to access of having certain infrastructure compared to those that don't. And along with this, there's also the tech impacts. You see, as our infrastructure is not just on the ground, it is also in space. Satellite networks have been something that has been developed since the early 60s during the space race between the Soviet Union and the US, with the goal being to have not just supremacy, but also have communication within space through early warning systems and also meteorological satellites. And with this, we then have been creating satellite networks, which are continuing to expand rapidly due to our technological demand, and also through the use of private investor companies and government-funded projects. But then, as these satellites are finished being used, they then can create space debris because there's no way to remove the satellite from space, which then can threaten our global communication systems as the space debris then can start orbiting our planet and our atmosphere and being launched at extremely high velocities and speeds, which then can damage satellites that are currently in use. And this is connected to a study done by the German Aerospace Center, where they have warned that space debris is becoming one of our most major challenges, not just in our current operations that we have in space, but then also in future space missions and satellite launches. With this showing that, as a reminder, that even our most advanced technological systems can have their environmental consequences, just in a different part of the environment. And with these sources and lenses, it then leads me into my first solution, which is sustainable development and design. And this is through the introduction and creating of wildlife crossings, which has been an idea that has been promoted and tested within different areas across the U.S. And this is through the use of using eco-friendly materials and designs that can be used through smart planning that can limit habitat fragmentation. And these designs are made to, in a sense, have a way for animals to cross over roads or highways or interstates, and not just rural areas, but then also populated areas, as a way to reconnect fragmented ecosystems, will also reduce roadkill incidents and wildlife mortality along these interstates and roads. And the Federal Highway Administration supports these strategies and this idea, but the implementation is often expensive and limited. Along with this, there is also no way to guarantee that animals will even use these crossings, which then creates the problem to where these solutions can be used for nothing and can actually create environmental or economic issues on the long run. And even then, though, these solutions then can show that we need to rather have a refining of this idea, because this allows for development and environmental protection to, in a sense, be coexistent, and also allow for us to continue to develop and grow and mitigate our issues and also mitigate our damage within these ecosystems that surround our road systems. And along with this is also my second solution, where I promote that we should have a refining of policy and technology. As you see, through government regulations, we can limit harmful development while also the promoting of sustainable planning framework that can create and guide long-term development that can also promote environmental protection. And this is also seen through not just the refining of policy and the limiting of harmful development strategies, but also the reusing of wasted products that can still, in a sense, not just be left behind, but rather recycled into a new item, as seen through the recycling of asphalt with the creation of roads. But then, however, though, the enforcement of these policies can be limited and cannot be also promoted in certain countries due to lack of interest and funding. But even then, the United Nations, through their environmental program, has been continuing to use and promote global sustainability standards for infrastructure, showing that our policies, in a sense, can help, but is rather not enforcing of it, but instead a refining of our thinking and our beliefs in order to promote sustainability within our nations and our society. And with this leads me to my overall analysis. Because for what I've seen, infrastructure is very essential to our development, but then it can also bring forth significant environmental and social consequences. And because of this, there is also not one single solution or one size fits all solution that can be implemented and used anywhere within the world. So then with this, societies must then learn, or in a way find and adopt a balanced approach to our infrastructure development that can protect our ecosystems, limit inequality, increase sustainability, and also support our economic growth, while also limiting our environmental impact and waste. And with this, as our infrastructure continues to grow and climate disasters continue to become more frequent, we must then make informed decisions that can, in a sense, in the long run, be crucial for building a sustainable future, while also limiting our impact on our environment that surrounds us. And with this is also my citations. And to conclude, infrastructure development is not simply a choice between progress or preservation, but rather it is a finding of a balance that allows for us to grow without sacrificing our environment or the well-being of communities. Now you see, by combining sustainable development, strong policies, and responsible planning, our societies then can build infrastructure that will not just support our people, but then also support our planet, ecosystem, and environment that surrounds us. And I would like to thank you for listening and thank you for your time.